Welcome. Today, I'm going to be covering the case of Mr. Cruel. Mr. Cruel is an Australian serial child rapist. Between 1987 and 1991, a masked attacker broke into the homes of 3 Australian families, bound the parents, and disappeared with one of the daughters. He is also the prime suspect in the 1991 abduction and murder of a 4th girl, and is suspected to match many other cases similar. His horrific crimes would lead people to give him the moniker of Mr. Cruel. He is believed to have been moderately intelligent, leaving no forensic evidence, meticulously planning each attack, protecting his identity strictly, even going so far as to leave many faulty pieces of evidence to throw the police off of his trail. Mr. Cruel has been often described as soft-spoken and calm, even once taking enough time to make a meal in someone else's home. Many suspect him to have been a sociopath and be plagued with mental problems. However, the man known only as Mr. Cruel has not yet been caught. However, there's been a recent breakthrough in evidence involving the case. If you listen closely, you may be able to tell what it is based on the evidence I'll tell you now. So, let me explain. First, we're going to have to go into his extensive crimes. Some confirmed and some suspected. Then, finish the list with the wide list of suspects and tools that police are using in order to find the exact location and identity of Mr. Cruel. On that Australian winter morning in 1987, Mr. Cruel established himself as a boogeyman that would strike fear into parents and children alike for over a decade. After the twisted attack on the family in Lower Plenty, the police were called and their investigation began. He was wearing a black tailored balaclava, armed with a knife and a handgun. He would subdue and tie the family, as well as their 5-year-old boy. He then took the 11-year-old girl and committed some of the most unforgivable acts as he assaulted and raped her for nearly 2 hours. When he finally left, she would be one of the first to call the police. She would provide them with a thorough account of what she'd been through. At the time, this would be key, crucial information in solving the case. The first piece would be her account of when he took a break from her once for a phone call. From what she heard, the call was a threatening one, with the man demanding the person on the phone on the other end to move their children, or else they would be next, as he referred to this unknown person. Another piece of evidence the police at the time deemed was essential was a knot that was used to subdue one of the parents, was commonly known by sailors and those who worked around and near aeronautical equipment. This would prove to be an important sign, or so they thought. These were among one of the only sketches that had been taken of Mr. Cruel, and was provided based on a description that the girl gave. Mr. Cruel's reign of terror, however, did not stop there. On the 27th of December in 1988 in Ringwood, he broke into a family home via the back door at about 5:20 a.m. Again, wearing a balaclava and armed with a handgun, he bound and gagged the parents, demanded money. He then grabbed their then 10-year-old daughter, put tape over her eyes and a ball gag in her mouth, and abducted her. She was released 18 hours later at the grounds of Bayswater High School. She gave a recantation of things that he did to her. Assault, only one of the horrific and creepy things that he did. On the 3rd of July, 1990, in Canterbury, he yet again broke into another family home at 11:30 p.m., armed with a knife and a gun. Again wearing a balaclava, he tied and gagged a 13-year-old girl, placing tape over her eyes, disabling the phones, and searched for money. He then drove her to another house and molested her for 50 straight hours before he released her at a power substation in the suburb of Q. There was also one case that followed the exact same trend that he is suspected of as well, the murder of Karmyan Chan. She would be taken from the family home when her and her sisters were all alone. Her abduction triggered one of the largest manhunts in Australian history, now known as Operation Spectrum. It was a multi-million-dollar undertaking that devoured tens of thousands of police man-hours, alongside the many thousands of volunteer hours. Sadly, she would never be reunited with her family. 1 year after her abduction, on April 9th, 1992, a man walking his dog in the close-by town of Thomastown happened to find a fully decomposed skeleton. This would eventually be revealed to be Karmyan Chan. Operation Spectrum continued for the next few years to search for Mr. Cruel in an attempt to find justice. The 40-member task force investigated over 27,000 potential suspects, collecting over tens of thousands of tips from the public, and searched over 30,000 homes in hopes of turning over a single clue. But they never did. Spectrum was eventually shelved for good in 1994, and with it went any potential leads on the Mr. Cruel case. And for a while, the trail went cold. In a 2019 television documentary, retired detective Chris O'Connor, once part of Operation Spectrum, said that there were, broadly speaking, perhaps up to a dozen victims of the investigation involving Mr. Cruel. The first victim was a 14-year-old girl who was abducted from her home in Hampton in February 1985. But many of them couldn't be confirmed, and a lot of the evidence from the cases was lost. So, it's been a long question. Who is Mr. Cruel? And are there really no hints? Well, if you pay attention carefully, like I said at the beginning, you may have been able to catch it. There was only one piece of evidence that the police definitely had, and that is the location of the crimes, and it seems to narrow him down to a narrow area of Melbourne. In the second clue is that all three of his confirmed cases are within a 1 kilometer distance to an electrical substation. The Canterbury victim was even released in front of the Kew electrical substation. This investigation led many online sleuths to deduce that he likely worked at one of them. Recently, there's also been some light confirmation of this by the Australian authorities. However, the authorities have not confirmed if they have figured out anything beyond that, but the odd confidence in the case as of late seems to indicate that there is more to it. So, if you know the identity or have any key new evidence, please contact your local authorities with information regarding Mr. Cruel. And that is the case up to the current day. Now, whether the police will arrest him soon or bring out new evidence relating to the case is something that truly only time can tell. I hope they bring this cruel fuck to justice. With that said, have a good day. Keep your eyes open. Thank you for tuning in. Subscribe if you like the information. Like the video if this was something that you hated. And love you guys and all of your endless support. Bye.